And Tish Lopez is going to be monitoring the chat, and I am going to get us started. So let's do it. So welcome to the Tech Happy Hour. We are really excited about just introducing you to a tool we're going to use called PowerNotes. And here is the link to the slide deck, and my colleague Brooke Bain is putting it into the chat. So that has all the links and that you need. And I do want to start with just a land acknowledgement. At this time, we want to take a moment to reflect on the lands upon which we reside, the ancestral homelands and the traditional territories of the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest. I would like to acknowledge that I am on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people past and present. I honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. If you wouldn't mind also taking a few moments to write into the chat, whose land are you on? And Brooke has a link so that you can discern for yourself. I'd also like to give us a moment for a labor acknowledgement. We acknowledge this country would not exist if it were not for the free and enslaved labor of Black people. We honor the legacy of the African diaspora and Black life, the knowledge and skills stolen due to violence and white supremacy. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor our Black and Indigenous ancestors who have paved the way for us. Thank you. I also wanted to just start with a few moments to arrive. And you'll see an image of a door opening. And that's really the invitation for today and for this entire project, is that doors might open. And I have a little bit of an echo, so I would just ask that if you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself. And for some of you who got on the call with us today, when I asked, how are you? There was sort of a hesitation, the feeling of, oh, and I know we all have so much on our hearts and minds right now. So let's just take a second to arrive, get ready before that door fully opens. Just take a second I invite you to either close your eyes or look away from your screen. If you feel comfortable, put your hand on your heart. And just take a second to just be fully present in your body. If your feet are on the floor, feel them on the floor. And just take a second to notice your breath. And one of the best things we can always do for our stress is to just focus on the breath. And so I'm just going to invite everyone to just take 3 deep breaths in and out. Thank you for taking just a moment to breathe with me, to be in presence and in community with each other. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my beautiful colleague, Tish Lopez, to just share with us a little bit about our vision for the day as the door opens. Thanks everyone for being here.
Hello, can everyone see me? Did I remove the spotlight correctly? Yes, no, okay, great. Okay, so today we have an exciting agenda. We just finished the welcome and the reminders. And now we're going to be moving into our purpose and rationale. And really, we're going to focus on what is PowerNotes? Why are we going to be using PowerNotes for the Anti-Racist Curriculum Initiative? From there, we're going to have an overview of PowerNotes, and Jimmy from PowerNotes is going to guide us through how to install PowerNotes and how to use PowerNotes. And afterwards, we'll have some time for Q&A, as well as some time to collect your feedback and reflection about the use of this tool. You can click on the next slide, please. Just a quick, some quick housekeeping business. The first thing I want to share is just the note, which you should already know, which is that this meeting is being recorded, and we'll be posting it on the ACI Canvas shell soon. And this is the first of 2 tech happy hours. Our next tech happy hour will be on January 6th at 4 p.m. It will be a repeat of this information, but if you would like to come back and listen to the information again or participate in the Q&A, you are more than welcome to. And just a big picture note that we are going to be providing a much richer orientation to the ACI in 2 different ways coming up. First is when you get introduced or added to our Canvas shell, which will be happening no later than next Monday. And then a much more in-depth orientation will be happening at our first convening on January 7th. So the orientation to the ACI is coming up, and really the purpose for today is we know some of you are going to want to get started on doing some of the reading associated with the ACI, and so we wanted to introduce you to PowerNotes as soon as possible. So today is really just to focus on getting oriented to PowerNotes so that if you want to get started in the readings and want to get started using it, you can. Next slide. So for Q&A, we're asking that you save, we want to make sure that Jimmy is able to share and Asao are able to share information about PowerNotes without any interruptions. So we're asking that if you have any questions, you can save them and put them in the document you see listed there. So Brooke graciously just added the link to the chat. So as the presentation is going on, if you have any questions, please put them there and we'll make time at the very end for the Q&A. Thank you. I think this is you.
Thank you, Tish. Sorry, I accelerated the slide too quickly.
Is this me, Jen?
This is you. Thanks,
Okay.
Asao.
So I'm just going to say just a couple of words. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's going to become clear as we move along, like the compelling and as well as the usefulness and meaningfulness of this tool. But one of the reasons why I wanted us to use PowerNotes for the reading work, the labors that we do together in ACI is that it offers us a way to be mindful in our reading practices as we read, not just afterwards, as well as provide us a way to make present some of the reading practices and ideas that we gather and collect during that time in a really useful and shareable way that we can then have some dialogue with each other about down the road. So I wanted us to have some kind of tool in common, and this one offers us some stuff on the back end as well, like some rich information around our reading labors that of course you'll have access to, we'll be able to share with you, and you'll be able to see as you go through it. Or use it. And so I just wanted to let you all know that there's a really good reason why we're using PowerNotes and why we've been able to make it available to you in order to use it. And it might be something that you want to think about using with your students, but that is not required at all. What's required is that you try the tool out and use it during your reading labors, and it will give you some stuff. And we're going to be trying to pay attention to those reading labors as labors so that we can begin to orient ourselves towards anti-racist orientations. And that is all I'm going to say about this. And I'm going to leave as much time as possible for Jimmy and his stuff.
Thanks, Asao. And Jimmy, do you want me to stop sharing and do you want to share, or do you want me to drive the slide deck? Like, what would you prefer? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I noticed that as soon as I started talking, I got that little note. Thank you so much. And that's a good question. I'm going to ask you to click through a couple of slides and I'm going to talk over them. And then I need to take the screen from you and go live demo. So if you don't mind me sort of giving you a heads up when that happens. Good
And real
afternoon,
quick,
everybody.
you want me to set a timer?
I'm sorry, was that directed to me?
Yeah,
Yeah, why not? Let's say yes.
I'll give you 20 minutes and
20
then
minutes is
I'll give
good.
you a 5-minute warning.
That'll be fine. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Jennifer.
Here we go.
Thank you. Okay, 20-minute. It's good to have a timer because I can go on too long with this. PowerNotes is a very robust tool, but I want to focus on today just how it is going to assist you guys in the ACI and basically assist, as Hal alluded to, in your reading labors. There are moments in which I could digress and go into how PowerNotes can assist instruction and assist students, should you choose to use it in your own respective classrooms. But for the most part, we're going to focus on the reading and organizational aspects of PowerNotes and how it can be used to track your efforts, and it can be used as a tool to help encourage interactive conversations with colleagues throughout the ACI initiative. Anyway, so PowerNotes is a two-part tool. It's very generally, it is a web-based platform that's basically designed to help students, or researchers, I should say more broadly, gather, organize, and track the resources they use when they're online doing reading. So as a digital platform, it's reliant on first a browser extension download, which I will show you how to do in just a few moments, and I'll explain why we chose a browser extension. And it's also, there's a web app part of PowerNotes, which is the place where a lot of the some of the conversational crosstalk and some of the organizational things about PowerNotes is going to take place. And I'll show you that in lifetime too. PowerNotes is designed for researchers and students generally to assist three main problems. And one is that reading comprehension and distraction that are flip sides of the same coin, perhaps, encountered by students in the digital realm. And we want to help manage the flood of information. And in that case, it's unlimited in the amount of information, amount of sources that a user can use, and we want to protect the integrity of sources. Those elements are not going to be as transparent or necessary in the ACI because you've got sort of a self-contained reading program. Anyway, so let me, I'm sorry, Jennifer, you can go to the next slide. Okay, this is the important thing to start with. There are some resources that I'm going to show you and make available to you, but PowerNotes is available to all of you as registrants in the ACI. If you go to this web address, this URL, powernotes.com/promo.aci2022, that's a link that will take you directly to a sign-in page, and it's going to apply a code. We've created a code that will allow you to go into PowerNotes and create a premium account without any cost to you, without any other moves to make. And the premium code is in the parentheses here, ACI 2022. If by some chance the link that you hit on above does not work for you, you can go to our homepage, and when it asks you for a promo code, you can type in this promo code and that'll work for you. You need to use the email address, the college associated email address that you used when you signed up for ACI. That's going to be something that we'll recognize on our end and allow you to start using PowerNotes with no further mess. And there's I've got an array of video tutorials that I'm going to show you in a moment. There's a quick and easy one that is going to give you a quick start to it, but I'll get to that in just a moment too. Jennifer, I think that's it, but one more slide just to make sure. Okay, when you click on that code, you're going to see this screenshot. You're going to see this interface, and if you see in the bottom part, with the promo code is where it says list optional. It should pre-populate with that code already embedded. If it's not, then you put it in there. And then when you put it in there, you sign up with your email address, agree to the terms of use, you're going to get a validation email that comes back, and then you're all set. You're good to go. That's the sign up part. Okay, but let me talk to you about how to do the browser extension. These are the codes that you need to remember. If you can copy and put them in your, for other resources, this is what you'll rely on. One more, Jennifer, I think that's it for me for this point. Okay. I think that's it. Now, if I can grab the screen from you, I'm going to go through these steps. What I really want to focus on here is how to create a topic inside PowerNotes, how to create a project inside PowerNotes. And I'm sorry, it tells me I'm disabled as a host sharing the screen. So if you could turn that on for me.
Absolutely. Sorry, Jimmy.
It's turned
That's all
on
right.
now.
Okay, let's grab it
Thanks.
now.
Sorry, my computer started freaking out. Sorry.
It's okay. Here's where we are. I'm going to get to this page. Hope everybody can see the screen. I'm going to assume that somebody shouts out to me if you can't see it. This is my screen. Get this stuff out of the way. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is download a browser extension. We operate and support Chrome, Firefox, and Microsoft Edge. Edge actually will send you to the Chrome store. So you might even start here. So if you go to our blog URL, blog.powernotes.com, you'll cover this page. And I would recommend using one of these two extensions. We will soon be able to support Safari, but for the start of your work, you will not be able to use Safari. So start with Chrome. Although I have a Mac and I use Safari all the time. It works on Macs perfectly fine. I just happen to use the Chrome extension. And I use the Chrome extension more so, I have both. I use the Chrome extension more than the Firefox because for reasons that are unknown to us, the Chrome store generally pushes out our enhancements earlier than Firefox. That's just for whatever reason that is. So I would recommend Chrome. Some people aren't fans of Chrome, so go to Firefox. It works just as well. So go here. You're going to click on this Chrome extension browser download. It's going to give you I'm not going to click it here because I've already got the browser extension open in my tray. If you see in the top right corner where my cursor is, this is the little PowerNotes icon. This means that I have the browser extension enabled on this website. I'm going to pause here and kind of go slowly to reinforce a couple of key things because some of the first user challenges with PowerNotes is that it appears to be ubiquitous and all over, and there are times in which you don't want the browser note, the PowerNotes interface in your way. If you notice this little button down here, the PowerNotes icon, if I click that, it opens up in what we call a sidebar. And I'll get to that in just a few moments, but that's important to know that it's part of the browser extension download. To get the browser extension out of your way, if you're doing research in another project, you're doing online reading for recipes for your holiday, then you want to get PowerNotes out of the way. Simply click this button and you'll see it gives me the toggle. The toggle allows me to disable PowerNotes. When I disable PowerNotes, two things happens. The little P that was down here in the bottom that opened up the sidebar is gone. And the P that's up here in my browser tray is now shaded out. That means PowerNotes is no longer active on my browser. I'm going to be doing work in ACI or doing other research, and you can use PowerNotes for projects outside of ACI. I'll explain that in just a moment. It's a very robust product that will allow you to do a lot of stuff, both with this initiative, but anything else you choose. I'm going to turn it back on and just point out a couple of other things. There are these two buttons that's important. The feedback button is really important for us. It's a direct line to our help desk. There's another place in which the feedback button is a little bit more prominent and will be more obvious to you on how it works. And then there's the logout button. I would encourage you not to think about the logout button. All it will do is just remove PowerNotes, and you have to come back in and log back in using the email and password that you used when you logged in. There's no reason to do that. Just hit the button to toggle on and off, and it enables PowerNotes. And I think I turned that back off. Sorry about that. Okay, now it's on. I'm good to go. The other thing I want to show you from this web page is we have a help button here that will take you to our collection of resources. And our resources are going to show you how to use PowerNotes in very different ways. If you have trouble with your first getting started with PowerNotes, this is the place to go to. This Getting Started with PowerNotes. It's going to walk through everything that I'm doing here. And you can read at your own pace. If you wanted to see video tutorials on all of these features inside PowerNotes, as well as how to get started and set up an account, click this button, and that will take you to this page. Oops. I've jumped ahead. Out of order here. There we go. Click to this page, and this is an array of video tutorials that are about different elements of PowerNotes. The first one that's really quite easy and maybe 2 minutes in time is getting started right here, this little button. And then your first getting started tutorial is these two. So these first two buttons are going to be the ones that you'd want to take a look at more closely. There is one more thing I'll show you here. There is a section on this help page that we call tips, tricks, and hacks. This is kind of interesting and important and fun, and mostly it's a place where students or users have shown us ways that they can get around some parts of PowerNotes and found new ways to enhance the use. One of the things that I would point out to you is the possibility that you might want to change your highlighting features, and you want to focus on highlighting a single word. This little click will take you down here and explain to you how you can highlight just one word. The default in PowerNotes is that it is a 2-word minimum. in order to activate the highlighting feature, but you can change that and highlight a single digit or a punctuation mark or a single word by following the instructions here. Okay, those are quick, just resources that you might come to when you're using PowerNotes on your own. Let me go and online and show you how you're going to get started. If I were signing up with PowerNotes, what it enables me to do is to create multiple accounts, multiple projects inside PowerNotes. I'm sorry, not accounts, projects. When I go to the web page, the landing page for PowerNotes, I am going to get to, sorry.
And I think it's worth saying here that what you're going to be asked to do in the ACI is you're going to be asked to read chapters of a SOUS text and use PowerNotes when reading it. And that's going to require the 4 tasks that we outlined, which is you need to create a reading project. You'll learn how to manage and create topics. And then there's 2 other things that are useful for doing feature assignments, which is enabling a time management icon. And then finally, just in general, how to annotate, highlight text, etc. So this is what Jimmy's going to take us through right now.
This is what I'm going to show you right now. When you get into PowerNotes, you will have, this will be a blank page for you because you have no projects. You might have started, if you've gotten ahead of the game, you might have created a project, an account, etc. But when you create your account and you come in, this project page is going to be empty. My project page is quite robust because I've got something like 30 different projects that I'm working on. One of the things about what we call premium access to PowerNotes is that you have an unlimited number of projects. One of those projects will be guided to you by ACI, but you could use PowerNotes for other projects. When you create a new project, you're going to go to the bottom of this project page. It's going to take me a while to scroll down through all of my projects. And I'm going to hit this button called Create a New Project. That is going to open up a blank template. And in this new project, I will name it, and I can name it. I've set up several before here, but I want to show you the most elemental way to get started. Okay, so we're going to call this just for now, so I can separate demo and call it demo ACI just for December 2nd, the 9th, just so I can separate from my other projects. That's the name. You might be given a name by Sal and his team. Put a project description if you choose. You have the option at this point to set the manner in which you want your citations to be generated. This is more for students and more for people who are going to be using it and more expansively than what you might be doing inside ACI project. But I could use any number of citation templates and just set as default the documentation style of choice. We're going to set it as MLA, and I create that project. Now, PowerNotes by default is going to create a project with 2 blank topics because we don't know what the research is going to look like. And this is not generating for some reasons. It could be I have too many open tabs. That's one thing that does slow down on Zoom for me. But anyway, I have done this in anticipation of that possibly being a problem. I'm going to show you. Here we go. It creates these 2 default tabs. The default tabs are background and new topic. I can leave them as those default tabs and then decide that I want to change these topics along the way as my research gets more refined. However, I know you guys are going to be working on some direct assignments in which you're going to be looking at the readings that are first assignment are going to be at Sal's intro and chapter 1, and you're going to be looking to aggregate your notes and your annotations according to 3 topics: assessment, anti-racism, and questions. So I can actually edit this right here and put those topics in. And you see the pencil button right next to my topic that allows me to do this. I can come back in and change this if I wanted to, and I can add topics both here and on the fly as we develop more research and collect more research and develop more research questions. And I hope this, I'm sorry if I'm doing this slowly, talking and typing is a challenge. But anyway, now I have set up the project that I'm going to be working in, my first assignment in ACI, with the 3 topics that we've already discussed that we're going to aggregate our notes. Okay, let me stop here and also show you that on this project page, we have not shown you how to annotate or use the readings just yet. That'll come in just a moment. But on the same page, after I just set up my project and I named my topics, I'm also going to do 2 things here that might be of value to you. Certainly one is going to be of value to you immediately. As Al alluded to, and so did Jennifer, that we are going to be able to sort of capture the amount of time that you spend inside PowerNotes doing different tasks, reading the assignments that you're given, collecting notes, writing on those notes, corresponding back and forth, or sharing your notes back and forth, etc. To do that, you have to enable a time management feature, and that's what this button is. Okay, so this third button here, you see it when I highlight it, says enable time management. Let me explain what this is, because this exists in PowerNotes for all projects, including all students who are using PowerNotes, but there are a couple of default settings that protect the student privacy. Number one, the time management feature is never enabled unless it's directed to us by the school in which PowerNotes is being deployed. So in other words, in this case, the ASBCTC said we want to do this, so we enabled the PowerNotes time management button for everybody who's enrolled in this project. The second thing that has to happen
this is your 5-minute. I just wanted to let you know you have 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh, we got to go fast. Okay, thank you. To get going on the time management feature, I also have to click this button. This button is an acknowledging that I, as the student, I, as the participant, am accepting the fact that my tasks are going to be recorded. The time is going to be collected. So I hit that button and it will activate the time management feature for the project here. The second thing is, well, if you're going to share this project with a partner or you do some small group work, you're going to hit this share project button. And I would then open up that toggle and I would invite somebody to join this project by putting an email address in here. And I would identify that person as a full participant by hitting the editor button. The commenter button means that she or he can only come in and see my project and comment on it. The editing button allows that person to come in as a full partner, full collaborator. Okay, this is what's going on here. I need to quickly get to the how to annotate and take notes on a project. Okay, this is the opening chapter of Asal's book, and I have set up a different project over here set up by the default headings. I wanted to show you this as an example. But I wanted to collect this and I could change this to this project that we just set up by coming over here and dropping down and finding that project in my drop-down menu. And there we go. So there's my project set up. I want to highlight something. I use my cursor to highlight. It'll capture exactly where my cursor is. As soon as I lift my cursor, you'll see here the box pops up. It corresponds to the title of the project that I'm in and the 3 topics that I have set up. So this is appropriately going to be collected into this topic. So I take notes on this. And now this is where the most expansive part of your work is likely going to happen, at least in the first phase, because you're going to be taking notes on this source, talking back to the source, whatever it is that happens here. It might be just that I'm asking questions back to the source. I don't understand exactly what's going on here. I will question Asal about it later. Maybe I want to think about this a little bit more. I can ruminate, I can take notes, I can paraphrase, I can do anything I want to. It's an unlimited field. When I click on this, it's going to save it over into the sidebar. What you'll see over here in the sidebar, and I'll do this real quickly just to show you another example, drop down another thing here. Over in the sidebar, my notes are beginning to aggregate. They're beginning to go into the places where I want them to be. I'm going to use this, I'm going to go quickly just to show you another way this goes. All right, I've got them. You might notice here that I've put these 3 notes into 3 different categories, and the color code on my PDF corresponds as well. So I can know the blue belongs to this category, the red belongs to this category, the green belongs to this category. I'm going very quickly. Now, what happens in PowerNotes is I was able to download Asal's chapter, and I did the whole book, and I also was able to do, the introduction chapter from the link that he provided. And this means because I can open it then in my browser. By opening it in my browser, PowerNotes works on it. PowerNotes will also work in sources from the open web. So I can go out to the open web and find something that's of relevance to me, or I might go to the library database and find something else that I want to add to this topic, even though the assignment is basically look at his book. I want to look at something else, an interesting article on code switching, blah, blah, blah. It might apply to the work that we're doing here. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go back and just show you, after you've done some work on these sources and you want to sort of take a look at how that aggregates. I'm going to hit the project outline button. That's going to take me back out to the web. This is where we were here before when we set up the project. But in this interface, I can begin to move things around and I can organize the work that I'm doing inside PowerNotes. There's a couple of things. If I want to share this project with somebody else, it might be that I want to make a comment on that person's work. I can have this, hit this comment button and write a note back to that person. Maybe we should talk about this. and that person will get this note in real time and can reply back to you synchronously, or can return to it later and reply back to you asynchronously. On each one of these note cards, you'll see that I have the notes that I took on this highlight. I got the highlight is protected by quotation marks. I have a link back to the source, which in this case is going to be my hard drive, because I've opened this PDF in my hard drive. And then I'm going to also have some quotation, some citation information that I could collect and share. Now, the first thing I can do here, if this is, I decided this doesn't really belong in this chapter, but I'm sorry, in this article, in this topic, but it belongs over here. I can move things by dragging and dropping the note card. I can also move the note card along or distance by hitting this 3 toggle button, which will allow me to move it elsewhere in this project. But perhaps I've done some work here and it's relevant to something else I'm working on. Because I have the premium account with PowerNotes and I have other projects going on at the same time, I can copy this note card and send it somewhere else. I could put it over another project I'm working on. What happens across all of these different features is that it becomes evident that reading is very visible. It's visible to me, and it's visible to the people whom I'm sharing my work with. It's also validifying the point that that reading is recursive. I can go back to everything. I can hit this link and go right back to where I was reading just a few moments ago. And I might want to challenge myself or challenge the person I'm working with as to whether that highlight is actually the best representation of how of what belongs in this field of assessment. I feel like I'm going very quickly over things. I'm running out of time. I realize that. One last thing I'll show you.
Jimmy, I just want to say that was 20 minutes. So
okay.
Do you want another 5 minutes, or should we pause and see if there's participant questions and then return to you? What would you like?
I would like to finish up 1 more minute and then
Okay.
we'll go to questions. I'm almost at the point, although I feel like I've gone quite fast. But I'm going to finish up here. There's a lot more that is relevant to the user, but not necessarily for your project. The one thing I wanted to point out here too is the comment feature is available on this note card. So I can be in this interface on the web, on the browser extension side of PowerNotes, and I can make a comment back and forth, register a comment here, or if I respond to a comment because a colleague has sent me a question. The other thing that I would point out is that even though you're inside this and you're probably not looking for citation information, PowerNotes as a tool will collect citation information. If I hit that button, it will tell me the link, and in this case, back to my hard drive, and the citation information as collected. If it's evident on the PDF, we'll collect it, and then I can save that, and henceforth, that citation information will go along with every note card on this page. I can bookmark something if I'm interested in coming back to it later. If I'm on this project and I don't have time to read it now, but I want to get back to it, I'll hit the bookmark feature, and that'll allow me to do that. And I can capture visual images, either by hitting the screen capture. Perhaps there's a chart in one of Sal's articles, and I need to look at that rather than the text material. I can use the screen capture button, or I can, on a photograph or an image, I can use a right click and I'll be able to save it. I'm sorry, that is a blitz, but I thank you so much, Jennifer, for the generous heads up, the generous amount of time first, and the heads up. Now let's please take questions, and maybe in context I can expand a little bit further.
So Jimmy, we have a great question in the Q&A document, and they said, I might have missed this information, but on some days I'll be reading on my personal laptop, and on others I'll be reading from the computer in my office. Is it reasonable to assume that as long as I'm logged into the browser extension, I can view my previous work?
That is correct. Absolutely is correct. I'm going to jump off there for a second. As long as you log into, you have a browser extension on each tool, and you just simply log into your account using your own account information. The question, I almost jumped ahead of you and answered too quickly. We're not yet able to support the cutting and copying and pasting on a handheld, although we're very close to that. The technology is there. We just have to go through the fine tuning and release that. So it will be possible in the future for you to also do copying, cutting, and pasting on a handheld, a tablet or an iPhone or Android, et cetera. But at the moment, it is browser extension dependent. So as long as you have the browser extension, the copy, cutting, and pasting from the document will work on laptop, a PC, a friend's device for that matter. Once you get to the web, once we click this button and go to the project outline to the web, it works on any device.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but maybe we can just open it up and see, does anyone here have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself.
I have another question. I'm really sorry.
No, go for it.
I'm a fairly competent reader, so I'm not super concerned about basics of note taking and highlighting. I just want to be very clear about if there's anything specific that I'm looking for other than the obvious topics of assessment and anti-racism when I'm reading. I understand how to use PowerNotes, and I know that maybe I'll get more information in the Canvas shell on the 13th or whatever. But beyond just what I would assume of basic talk to the text reading apprenticeship stuff, is there anything else I need to make note of as I'm reading for this specific project? Maybe this isn't the place for that question, but does that make sense? Like, what am I looking for?
I think it definitely makes sense. And Tish is familiar with ASAO's labor instructions. So Tish, do you want to take this, and maybe ASAO wants to weigh in too?
Is Asao, are you?
ASAO is puppy sitting today, so he might have. Oh, here he is.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my dog has been cooped up all day, and he is a puppy, and I'm having to like keep him at bay. So yes, so trying to keep it little distraction as possible.
I was like, I could just say there. Yeah.
Did you, Tish? You want to take? It's a good question.
No, I think you should take the lead.
Well, I think any special topics or any special ways in which information we want you to gather in readings, special ways to read, for sure we'll provide that prompting or those instructions. But use the normal critical ways in which you organize your own reading and note taking and annotating as well. I mean, and really we want that to be we want this tool to be flexible enough to be able to accommodate all the kinds of things that you would normally want to engage with it when you're reading a text.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Jimmy, we had a quick request if we could stop sharing just while we're discussing, and then we'll share again. Thank you so much.
I was sorry.
You're in the zone.
I was listening intently.
If folks also don't have questions, Jimmy could share more, or also if folks want to start maybe sharing a little bit about what are your thoughts about this tool? What are your reactions to this tool? Like, I know Tish and I and Zan and Dutch kind of geeked out when we saw it about all the different problems of practice this kind of addresses, as we, like that sort of analog doesn't really address, but digital gives us new potentials.
I'm kind of excited about it. I can see its use in English 102 research writing. And I guess my question is, I believe, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, Jimmy. You said a text that's on your hard drive or a text via online, as long as we're reading, or as long as that is open, the PowerNotes is open, it will access that material. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. Yes. If I have a PDF saved on my hard drive, I think it's a different command for a Mac versus a PC. We actually have a blog entry on this, and you also Google it. I think it's Command O for a Mac. So in other words, I would hit that in an open browser, and then the browser would take me to my hard drive and say, what do you want to lift? What do you want to open? And then I go into my folder and find ASAO's book, click ASAO's book, and it'll open up in a browser. Opening in the browser is the key thing. Got to make sure that happens. And then I think the other part of your question, yes, it works on anything in the open web. So anything you access with URL. And an enormous number of domains. We work off something like 40,000 different domains, which would include, like, the New York Times is a domain, EBSCO is a domain, JSTOR is a domain. Now, there are some ebook platforms. We constantly are expanding the list of domains that we work off of, and occasionally we'll encounter an ebook platform or something where PowerNotes does not work. I should have shown you the other feedback button, and I won't go back and grab the screen, but if you imagine on the sidebar, if you can picture that, there was a little red outline on the right margin. That's actually a feedback button. If you hover over that, it opens up a feedback button. You click on it. It will auto-populate the URL that you're on, and then you just type a quick note, this isn't working or something's not going on here, and then it'll go straight to PowerNotes user help desk. And the team up there will take a look at it. Sometimes it's a matter of PDF not being scanned. Now we have an automatic OCR feature inside PowerNotes. So if you're inside, and this is not true for Salzbook because we've tested everything, right? So the first part of your work with his stuff, you should not encounter this. But if you're doing something else and you hit a PDF that does not have a text layer on it, PowerNotes will detect that, and then we'll OCR it for you. We'll add a text layer on top of it. You actually just hit a button, it goes up to our server. Our server puts a text layer on top of it and sends it back to you as a PDF, which you then download and save in your hard drive and your hard drive. A lot of acronyms. Okay, I am sorry.
Jimmy, is that the same? Is that a similar problem with that it has with Google Drive items, the items stored in Google Drive that it won't let you interact there?
The two things that go on in a Google Drive, as I understand it, this is getting beyond my understanding necessarily of technology of Sal, but number one, Google Drive is not a static document, so it changes all the time. So in other words, it's impossible technologically for us now to sort of identify where a highlight has been made, or and come back to a document that's constantly changing. But the other part of it is definitely, and OCR stands for optical character recognition. So it means that basically there's just a flat screen, and there isn't a distinguishable character delineation. So in other words, we're THD, we need to be able to see the difference between T, H, and V in order for the highlighting to work. And so PowerNotes, when we provide the OCR function, that basically puts a text layer on top of the picture. That's what that means. I'm being very too many acronyms. I apologize to whoever posted that, but that's also now the way my mind's grooved. I apologize.
So I think we have about 15 minutes left, and I see Helen's hand is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy, for the presentation. I'm excited to get this project started, and curious to see how PowerNotes works. My question is about sharing. Like, I know when I am in my reading practice, like I'm always like, my brain like jumps off into other places, and I tend to write a lot of notes when I'm reading. And what if we have like, ideas that we just want to not necessarily keep to ourselves, but they're just so jumbled and unedited, which happens, sometimes when we're free writing. Is there like a way to share part of a project and not other parts? I mean, I can also keep a whole nother document just for myself, but I was just curious if that feature was in PowerNotes.
No, Sharon, Helen, I'm sorry. I'm writing that down very quickly. The short answer is no, there's not. But I like that question. I like what it's asking us to do. So I'm going to take a quick note, and it could very well be that this is something that the team has entertained before or heard before, but we're just not able to do that now. There is a way that you as the owner of the project can't really hide what you've done or keep some part of it to yourself, but there is a way on the sidebar on the project, on the project outline page, where you can, on the note card itself, hide elements of it. So you can hide your own notes, you can hide, but that the person who's coming in as a sharer, if she's a full collaborator, can reverse that toggle and see it. If that person comes in as a commenter only, they'll not be able to see it. So that sounds kind of wonky, doesn't it? There is a way that you can protect it if that person's coming in only as a commenter, and you hide parts of what you hit a toggle to hide parts of what's on your note card. I can show you that. That's really getting into a high-end tech thing. If you want to, incidentally, everyone, I mentioned the feedback call button for anybody who's encountering problems in PowerNotes. If you have other kind of tech issues, I'm happy to take them on one-on-one too. So my email address again is, I'll put it in the chat room, is jimmy@powernotes.com. So
I think it's important to note that while the sharing feature is possible, we're not planning on having you share your notes widely with all other participants. You're welcome to, if you want to say, see my notes, feel free to. But the general idea is really, in fact, I'll paste in the chat broadly. This is a lot of text. I apologize for that. But broadly, the moves we'll be asking. And so in the first reading assignment, we are giving you some topics for the first reading, but from later on, you'll have a chance to develop your own reading topics. But we're really asking you in the first time when you're reading, where are you noticing passages that focus on assessment as an example, and highlighting those and making notes? And where are questions, like as you're reading, if a question is emerging in your head, like in that moment, being able to highlight that passage and say like, what does this mean? Or this makes me want to ask this question, and be able to capture those questions. And in the end, when you have that outline, you'll be able to see it. And then you'll notice if you read that long text I just posted, what we're asking is when you're done reading, look over everything that you highlighted in your notes and see if you need to rearrange based on what you're thinking and your ideas. And then that's going to lead to you actually doing a discussion board post where you're going to share your thoughts in a particular question or prompt. So it's really just giving you a way to just more actively engage in reading a text, because I think, as we all know, when you're reading text electronically, it can feel very passive at first. You're just kind of reading it. You're forgetting what you read a paragraph before. And this really helps you remain really active and engaged. And it is what Jimmy said, it makes the process much more recursive and visible. And so that's really, really what this tool is for, is to really help you with that.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
yeah,
I
know, the puppy.
You have to introduce your guest to Sal.
This is Porter. He's been very antsy today. Let me just add, because I think, Helen, you make a really good point. I think there's a lot of notes and annotations that if we have a book in front of us, we know that they're private. We know that and we can share just the ones we want to in a group setting. So I would say, if you anticipate, and it's reasonable to anticipate sharing, even if only to for others to view or comment, your projects with others in ACI. I would make a separate project where maybe it's the same, it's the same readings, but maybe it's just notes to yourself that you're not intending to share because they're private, or you think, hey, if somebody heard this, they might get offended. But I got to be honest with myself about what I'm thinking here, and I think that's important that we should be. So there should be a way for you to have your private thoughts, because they're your private thoughts, and they shouldn't have to. We don't want to make people share things that they're not willing to share, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I think I got to go. This dog is not willing to stick around for any more time. It's also very close to his dinner time. So
Thanks, Sal.
Yeah, thank you. And I was thinking how unhappy someone might be if they had to read all my odd annotations. So I really appreciate that thorough answer from all of you.
Really quickly, did Asal already leave?
No, he's
I'm
right
still
there.
here, but I'm
So
about to
just in
exit.
case Katrina's question requires an answer from you, it doesn't. Okay, Katrina says no.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Katrina, do you have a Jimmy question?
I do have a Jimmy question. So my question is, if I wanted to use this for my own research outside of this project, when this project is over, or when this term is over, will I still have access to those notes, and what would that look like?
Okay, that's a good question. It comes up all the time. There are ways around this. Some of this you're going to like, some of it you're not going to like. Number one is we don't shut down and hold the material. So we will give you the alert that your project expires in X days. There are different ways you can download your research. I didn't show that today because I just thought that was down the road much further. We call them exports. There's a way that you can export all of your research in a Word document, all of your notes, everything. I can show you, well, anyway, it's everything that you have in the project outline, with everything, highlights, notes, links, URLs back to the links back to the URLs back to the sources you were writing from. You can export them as Excel spreadsheets, a couple of ways that it would orient as an Excel spreadsheet, with topics across one axis and the readings that you've selected down the other axes. And then we have a version of that, so the axes are reversed. Okay, that's the short answer. We also, if you decided that you wanted to continue using PowerNotes, and if you're at a school, we can always entertain the possibility of extending your code or giving you a new code and extending the life of the project. Ideally, what we'd love to have happen is that some of you want to choose to use this in your own work at school or in your own, own professional work, and there's always a way I can get around that. And the third option, which is the least desirable, is that we'll charge you for it. You can pay us a monthly fee of about $40.99 a month or $49.95 a year for a PowerNotes account. So there is a direct sale to customer kind of concept too.
One other thing Jimmy didn't have a chance to talk about today that is really cool, I'll just share out, that I liked, is anytime you read an article, so as you're doing this work, it's natural that you're going to come across articles in different sources that you're going to want to, oh, this idea connects to something in the ACI project. You can actually turn on PowerNotes at that moment and highlight those texts included in this project. And then Jimmy, am I correct in thinking, if I remember correctly, like you can even like give you the MLA citation too at many times, not 100% correct, obviously, if the meta code isn't correct, but I'll stop talking.
No, I thought I heard two questions. Forgive me, Trish.
So like if I am on an article and I want to get the MLA citation for it, there's a really actually easy way in PowerNotes.
Yeah, it's going to collect it automatically. To get wonky on you guys, we work off of an instance of Zotero, so it's going to collect the citation information immediately, just like Zotero does. There is right now a less than elegant way that we collect and present all the citation information to you. We can download it as an RIS file, which is then exportable. RIS means research something. Oh, I do use acronyms way too flippantly, I guess. But anyway, you can collect it and send it off to your citation generator of your choice. Sometime during the course of this next semester, we will have a more elegant link directly to the citation generator of your choice. And then the next step along that path is going to be, we will be creating our own citation generator. So you'll have it all inside PowerNotes and download from the page here. That's the first thing. The other thing we were talking about, like you can make a copy of something that's important to you in this project and send it over to yourself in another project too. And you can do that as a URL, as a note card, etc. I'm not sure that I think I heard one question and answered another one too. So forgive me, Tish, if I didn't hear that right.
So I think Bradley had a technical question in the chat. And it's not one of his dogs perked up when he heard the puppy. Bradley, I love that. You're not seeing the clock timer function. And do we enable that? Do you enable that?
That's a good question. If you're not seeing it, that might mean that we've not turned it on for the quote unquote SBCTC university. What we needed to do is actually set up a fake shell of a university so that everybody's housed under it. All of you are coming from different colleges and campuses with different specific email addresses. So if that's the case, has anybody else checked it out to determine if that's the case, Bradley, then that means we've not turned it on my end. And I need to immediately call my desk and say, turn it on.
I had that when I first installed, but then I think I sent you guys a note and it was fixed and I was able to see it after that. But the one thing I did, what is not clear, is like when you turn it on from your browser, you then have to click on the PowerNotes icon and it takes you to the project. It's like it's a little bit of an extra click. I'm not explaining it well visually.
Just really quickly, I know people are starting to take off, and I just wanted to say we do have a quick feedback form, and we would love it if you could just take a few minutes to fill it out before you leave. It should just take 2 or 3 minutes, and I will now be quiet so that.
Brad, I'm back to you for just a second. I'm going to double check and make sure it's been turned on for the university that we're operating under here. And if that's the case, then that's not going to be, Angela, I just see that you popped up the same question. That's going to be true for all of you guys. And I need to enable that. So
Thank you.
check back in with us tomorrow, okay? Because it's a switch. And if I get somebody live now, then it's turned on in 10 minutes, but it could be not until tomorrow morning.
And I think there was one more question about the 3 topics, and Tish, I saw you answered it in the chat. And Tish, I just wanted to check with you. Also, those topics are in the labor instructions, is that right, in the Canvas shell?
Yes. So once everyone gets access to the Canvas shell, which you should get access no later than this upcoming Monday, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see the actual assignment.
We have been working very hard on the Canvas shell, and by we, I mean Tish and Alyssa Sells, but hopefully it's going to be the best Canvas shell you've ever been in your life.
Stop sharing. That's not, you're seeing my very messy screen. Where was I?
I believe it or not, I just got a quick feedback from somebody up at PowerNotes, and don't know that this is true, Bradley, for your question, but it could be that what we need to do is when you register for an account, if you just did it today, there would not have been time for you to have been brought into the university umbrella. If you did it earlier, then it's a different issue. So that's in other words, because we are expecting signups to be coming from the ACI participants, it will be coming in a piecemeal fashion. In other words, the first people who signed up, it'll be turned on, then it'll have to be turned on again and updated for the people who came in since that first turn on period, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to just monitor that. I'm going to get back to my help desk and see if there's a more elegant answer, but that's one possibility.
I did, using screen to GIF. I created a little GIF that shows people what actually happens. And so it'll recycle in 1 second and you'll see. But this is what it will look like. So you'll be able to, I think it ends right here. Yeah. So you'll be able to click on PowerNotes, make sure it's enabled. And then you're here. You have to click on the yellow icon. That then takes you to the project. You click on the project. And then once it's correct, you should see the enable time management.
That's a beautiful GIF.
Well, it is 4:57. We have 3 precious minutes left together. Is there anything else that anyone else would like to add or say, or questions or comments?
I'll just say thank you. And I hope that you have a seamless and positive experience using PowerNotes, but if there's hiccups along the way, please reach out to us. We'd rather know than not know and make it easy for you. Thank you.
And that's true for the ACI leads as well. So let us know if you're having any challenges. Like, please let us know and we'll be happy to offer assistance or just commiserate.
I have a question, but I feel like it's just my own lack of computer awareness. So if I can wait to ask when everyone's leaving.
In the meeting after the meeting?
Yeah, in the meeting after the meeting. Because it's just a quick personal question.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll say thanks to everyone for coming. If you need to go, please go. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Tish, for helping me put together this slide deck. Thanks to Asao, who's not here. And thanks to all of you for coming during finals, when you're grading and assessing and all of those things. And we're super looking forward to seeing you in January, and look for that Canvas shell invite. It really is a beautiful Canvas shell and we're excited to show it to you. And if anyone wants to stay for the meeting after the meeting, we'll stick around. So leave if you want to leave, or stay if you want to stay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I'm staying if Kobe's question is a PowerNotes tech.
I'll go ahead and
or-
stop the recording, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Tish. Thanks for always remembering.